The new drag races are out now, and I was really excited for these new drag races because paired with the drift races, it's going to be exciting. With the drift races, you got a lot of additional things and new features. And with this, it seems that you can shift yourself as well, which is a really cool option. Now, to start a drift race, you just go on pause, online, jobs, play job, Rockstar created, and then you go on races. And it's an actual race in itself, so it's called drag races. And there's 7 of them as well, so you can play 7 different of these new drag races. They have their own symbol as well, so it's a fully individual kind of race. Now, just a little brief before my complaints come rolling in. I mean, first of all, I'm confused at why they've added 2 different unique kind of races in this same DLC, why they've added the drift one and the drag one. I guess we can safely say we're not going to get a DLC now that is all dedicated to drag races because they put the drag race in here. But once you start the job, you'll realize that it's a bit limited in class. You've got tuner class, you've got muscle class, and you've got sports class. And then when you get into it, you've got a few cars. So in the sports class, you have the Corvette D10, you have the Hot Ring Everon, you have the Growler, you have the Spectre Custom, the Sugoi, the 10F, the 10F wide body. So that's demonstrating that this is only limited to certain cars. When it comes to the tuners class, you've got the Comet S2, you have the Cypher, the Dominator ASP, the Growler again, the RT3000, the Sultan RS Classic, Tailgater S, and the Vector. Now, I'll show in a bit that it's ideal that you have your own custom car in this. It's so much faster. Yeah, and quickly for the muscle car class, you've got the Dominator ASP, you've got the Hellfire, you got the Goltner Classic Custom, you got the Ruiner ZZ8, Beta Duke, Stallion, Phoenix, Dominator, and Ruiner. Again, no matter what car it is, if you have one car that's fully customized, make sure you pick that. Don't pick any of the ones that are not customized or the game gives you. So when you start the race, the first thing you want to do is warm up your tires, so do a burnout. And the burnout in this is very predictable. All the cars are the same. You just need to get right to the end of the rev range of the blue range and kind of settle your RPM there. Now, you can push in your R2 at like 70% and then it will rest in the same area. But an easier way, I think, is just to spam R2 when you're in that area. It just seems easier if you just have a rhythm of pressing R2 like 0.2 of a second delay. Now, the concept when starting the race is also very obvious, like you just shift in the blue area, but it's not that easy. I'm guessing once you've done a few races, it will become more natural, but all the cars kind of behave differently. So you have rear wheel drive cars that wheel spin a lot, and then the more optimum way of shifting is to let the needle bounce off the rev limiter, then come back up to the blue range. But with some cars, it's better to just shift as soon as you hit the blue range. I will later show you a comparison of the difference between shifting perfectly in the blue range, shifting too early, and shifting late as well. And I'll show you the differences in time and how it will affect you. So shifting in the blue range is the more optimum shift, but the camera gives a boost effect, making it seem like you get speed boosted, but you don't. Now, if you don't have a transmission upgrade, you'll have less gears. So for example, in most cases, which I've seen, I don't know if any other car is different, but it's 1 gear you lose. You have an extra gear if you have the transmission upgrade. So for example, with the Goltner Hellfire Custom, you'll have 5 gears if you have the transmission upgrade, but if you don't have the transmission upgrade, you'll have 4 gears. And some of you may find it easier with less gears, but is it worth that speed sacrifice? Now here we have side by side, or one above the other, different shift times. At the top we have shifting early, in the middle we have shifting perfectly, and then we have shifting late at the bottom. I started all of these with just accelerating and perfectly at the same time to see what the difference is. The difference is slightly surprising, where earlier really didn't help with the shift times and the car was much slower, but perfect shifting and late shifting seem to be around the same. Now if we slow the beginning down, sorry for the choppy footage, but you can see that the late shifting was actually ahead in the first few gears, ever so slightly. And I did this again and again and I was getting the same results. So I'm not telling you to shift late, but I'm telling you that it's better to shift later than shift earlier. That's 100% a given. And if you're hesitating to get that perfect bar, just anticipate it more later instead of more earlier, because it does affect you a lot. Now here's the reason I actually tell you to make sure you race a modified car, because it makes a massive difference. This is not a subtle difference where you can win. Well, you can win by luck probably if the guy crashes, and there are pedestrians that do come out in the middle of the road to hit you purposely. But look at the difference between my car, which has no upgrades, and his car, which has max upgrades. It's almost like my car decides to stall when it goes into third, and that third is so long. Yeah, it feels like a pedestrian vehicle, even slower than some pedestrian vehicles, I think. The gear ratios really mess up cars that are stock. Now, what do I dislike about this new drag race? You know, I think something's better than nothing, and they gave us this, so we can't really complain. But like I said earlier, the fact that they've gave us this, I would have liked to see one day us get a drag race DLC where we can actually put drag tires on our cars. I've actually wished for this in the past. I wished for a drag race that's official from Rockstar, but I wasn't really expecting this. But yeah, a drag race DLC would have been really nice. You know, like we have a HSW version, it would have been nice. Drag prepper car. The tires be drag tires and they're super sticky. But now that we have this, it makes it seem like we're not going to ever get that. And I'd like to add as well, it's very strange that they added this gear shifting mechanic in the game. I think it's broken. When I asked for it in the video where I talked about things I would like GTA to add, everyone was saying that would never be a thing until GTA 6, which they kind of proved us wrong here. Like, they did add it, but in a very limited factor, only in a drag race. Rockstar, could you not give us that option of having it in free mode as well? No, because this drag racing race changes the physics of cars so much. Like a lot of other races, really messes with the vehicle handling flags. Like, you will realize when you're driving a car that's normally stiff like a Hellfire, it's a lot more agile and maneuverable, and then it feels similar to other cars, just like the drift cars feel similar to each other. These drag cars, which are not drag cars, they're in a drag race, feel similar to each other as well. Now, limiting the cars, I'm not too upset with it because they have to change all the handling flags like I just said. But the fact that all these cars they choose to add, there's a lot of cars they could have added. In the muscle car class, I think they've left it quite lenient. But in the sports class, having the D10, having the Hot Ring Everon, the Growler, the Sugoi, like all these cars are expensive. So for people who are beginners to the game and don't have any of those cars, which is very likely, they're going to get smoked. They're going to get thrashed in these races, especially in the sports race. In the muscle race, you do have cheap options like the Stallion and cars you can get off the street. And in the tuners, you've got expensive cars as well. So this is not beginner friendly. The fact that you can only have 4 people as well kind of annoys me. And you guys will probably be like, oh, it makes sense. It doesn't make sense that it's a 4-lane drag race. Like, if they were just to have 2, I'd be like, okay, that makes sense. But it's a 4-lane drag race, and it means that they can just make it more players. It's already chaotic with 4 cars. They could have made it 8 cars. They could have made it 10 cars. Yeah, they limited it to 4. And then the payouts on them it's terrible. The payouts are double money. But if you actually complete the race in a fast time, which is the objective, you get 2 or 3k. And that's double money. And yeah, they get boring after a few races. And Rockstar did try to make this entertaining by adding traffic that purposely rams into you. You'll see that by a fire truck coming, side-swiping people, which is kind of funny when you're in second place and you watch the first place guy gets swiped out. But not when you're first. Definitely not when you're first. Thank you ever so much for watching. Hopefully you did enjoy. See you guys in the next one.